Everything changed at 29, looking in the mirror, and I just recognized that I was a shell of myself. I didn't recognize the reflection staring back at me. And I had just gotten out of a very deep heartbreak, and I had spent my last $300 on substances. And I just knew in that moment, I had a choice to either change my life and start pouring back into myself and stop being a victim, or I could just continue outsourcing my worth and my brilliance and everything else to everyone else, and then just live an unfulfilling life. Introduce yourself. Who are you and what do you do? I'm Sophia, and I would describe myself as a curious, free spirit, a lover of life, and a woman who is finally coming back to herself after so many years of self-abandonment, and a woman with a really big heart that really desires to help other women feel seen and safe, and as if they can accomplish and achieve whatever it is that they desire in this world. And being able to express themselves and feel safe to express themselves after years of feeling as though they weren't enough, or that what they had to say didn't matter, or that it simply wasn't safe to use their voice. So I'm a self-expression and podcast mentor, and I help women turn their stories into podcasts that not only they're proud of and that they stay consistent with, but that allow them to bring the parts of themselves online that they had hidden from the world for so many years. And in turn, be able to connect with the people that desperately need their message and their gifts. You said growing up, your big emotions and intensity made you feel like you were too much. How did believing that shape the way you moved through the world? Yeah, I felt like the black sheep of my family growing up. I always felt like I was an outcast, not only in my family dynamic, but also in elementary school and throughout my school growing up. I was always again, very curious, very entrepreneurial. I was always building something as a little girl. Like I was so creative and free and had an imagination that ran wild. But in elementary school, I was bullied for the way that I looked, my hairy arms, having a mustache, and I would always get in trouble for talking too loud in class. And so I learned very early on that being me wasn't safe. And the dynamic at home with my father was really difficult growing up. Him and I have a beautiful relationship now. However, for the majority of my youth and teenage years, it felt very unsafe for me to speak my truth. I was always met with aggression or disappointment, and I felt as though I couldn't fully express what I needed to express. And so in turn, I would lash out. I became a rebel. I would throw crazy temper tantrums and get put in timeouts. And I just didn't know where to put all of these emotions because I thought they made me wrong. And so I really grew up learning that my emotions, my sensitivity, my too muchness, my passion was too much for the world. And so when I started rebelling when I was about 14 years old, I went to my first music festival, I took ecstasy, and immediately I felt like, oh my gosh, I can be myself. And it was this feeling that I had never felt before, this liberation. And from that point forward, I made it my mission to do anything I could to belong or be loved or accepted. So I started to abuse substances, I started to drink alcohol, I started to party because for me, that was my sense of approval. And I wanted to be whoever anyone else wanted me to be in order to be loved. And that then led me to many abusive relationships and just outsourcing my worth to anything and everything outside of myself. And of course, because I believed that I was too much inherently, the world always mirrored that back to me. So every person that I dated, friendships that I got into, you're too much, shut up, you're too loud. And so it was always that reoccurring message of take up less space, be more polite, be more palatable, but just be who everyone else wants you to be, and then you'll be loved and accepted. So I basically did that from the time I was 14 till I was 29. And I moved through the world very insecure, always second guessing myself, never feeling like I could use my voice or take up space, and always just feeling less than. So I would settle for less than. I had very low standards for myself. I didn't respect myself. And so of course I was always attracting in everything that proved that to be correct. And then I remember everything changed at 29, looking in the mirror, and I just recognized that I was a shell of myself. I didn't recognize the reflection staring back at me. And I had just gotten out of a very deep heartbreak, and I had spent my last $300 on substances. And I just knew in that moment, the unknown felt like the better path than staying where I was. Like staying where I was felt so much scarier than the fear of the unknown. At 29, you didn't recognize the person looking back at you in the mirror. Who were you at that time, and how did you rebuild from that moment? I can see her and like feel her in my presence right now. And I remember so vividly, I was in Colombia. I was 29 years old. I had just gotten out of a relationship, and we hadn't dated for very long, but he was a very big mirror for me. I saw so many things that I wanted to be, but I didn't know how to be her. And at that time at 29, I was honestly a shell of myself. I felt like my self-worth was at an all-time low. I didn't love myself. I thought I was too much. I thought I was unlovable because of so many failed relationships. And there was so much shame that I was swimming in because I didn't recognize everything that I had ever been through, and I wasn't aware at the time that I had a choice to either change my life and start pouring back into myself and stop being a victim, or I could just continue outsourcing my worth and my brilliance and everything else to everyone else and then just live an unfulfilling life. But I remember when I looked at that reflection and I had hollow eyes, I was so skinny, I lost so much weight just from the lack of love. I wasn't eating, I was out partying every single weekend, and I didn't know who I was at my core. And I remember just in that reflection, and I thought to myself, oh my gosh, I cannot stay here another day. I cannot live my life for everyone else anymore. I know that I have something special within me. I know that I have gifts. I know that I have magic that I need to give to the world, but I can't do it like this. And ever since I was a little girl, as I mentioned, like I always knew that I had something different inside of me that I am here to share. But because I had been so disconnected for so many years, I'd never really understood what that could look or feel like. So I remember after that, I had that epiphany of I have to change my life. And simultaneously, I had about 2 weeks before my first ayahuasca experience. And I remember the moment that I felt in every fiber of my being, I am ready to go sit with ayahuasca. I didn't know that much about it besides one friend who had sat with it multiple times. I was terrified of it. Just hearing his experience, I thought to myself, I could never do this. But I remember waking up one day feeling like, now's the time. I'm ready. And I just remember walking into this retreat center with 21 strangers, so insecure, so scared to even share my truth because I thought, what if they judge me? What if they perceive me in a certain way? But I just knew that my life could never be the same. And I remember very vividly sitting in a circle with 21 strangers before we actually started the ceremony. And we were just sharing our intentions and why we were there. And so that was really my moment of, okay, am I going to be honest and open and share my truth? Or am I just going to say something else to protect myself and not be seen in this way? And there were many different reasons why I was there. Of course, family dynamics, relationship with my father, heartbreak. But the main overarching thing that I kept writing in my journal was, I know that I have a problem with substances and drinking, and I need to change my life, but I was terrified of losing my identity and losing friends and not knowing the woman behind that. So we sat in the circle and everyone's sharing and we're all crying and just feeling all of these emotions. And as it got closer to me, I could just feel my throat tightening. and I was shaking and my palms were sweaty, and I'm like, oh my goodness, what's gonna happen when it gets to me? And the moment it got to me, I froze, and my mind was like, you can't share that, you need to get sober. Everyone's gonna judge you. No one even knows that you're going through this right now, because on the surface, I looked like I had everything together, but on the inside, I was hollow and crumbling. And I just said out loud, I'm here after a relationship just ended, and there were multiple suicides in my family, and I'm just trying to get a little bit more clarity on certain family dynamics. But I left out why I was really, really there. And then they moved on from me. And again, I just felt that shame and guilt, because I thought, I know why I'm here, but I'm not ready for anyone to see me in that truth. And the first night we laid down, and I remember feeling really anxious, and I was shaky because I hadn't actually followed the protocol up until ayahuasca, and it's very strict. And I felt really guilty.
Were you drinking and using substances up to that point?
Yes,
okay.
About 4 to 5 days before.
Okay.
And I felt like I was disrespecting the ceremony, which I was, and it just felt like I didn't belong there. And again, it was that same reoccurring theme of you don't belong here. And there was a part of me that wanted to get up and tap the person that was there, who was facilitating, and just say, hey, look, like, this is my truth. I did this. Like, I can't actually participate in this. But then there was a really big piece of me that was like, Sophia, you were led here for a reason. You need this more than ever before. Sit with this and just let the medicine speak to you. So after about 30 minutes of battling with my ego, I just laid there. And the very first message that I heard was, if you get sober, your entire life will change. And for the next 30 minutes, it was me wrestling with the fact that I would not give it up, that I would drink less, I would party less, and basically just not fully surrendering. Because I thought, I'll have no friends, I'll have no hobbies, I won't even know who I am. So how on earth could I get rid of something that has become such an integral part of my life for 15 years? And then something came over me. It was like this wave of calm and peace. And I felt my body melt into the floor. And all of a sudden, I just felt myself let go. And I thought, okay, I'm gonna change my life after this. I will stop using substances. I'm gonna change. And it was in that moment that the medicine took me down the most beautiful path that I have ever witnessed. And it just showed me what my life could look like if I was sober. And I just saw sunshine and incredible friends and a partnership and just absolute magic. And my health, like that was a really big thing for me, was getting healthy again. And after that ceremony, we sat with the medicine for 5 days. It was very intense, very exhausting. I went back to Atlanta, which is where I was living at the time. And I just remember this hollowness, but also so much hope. Because I knew that I had to let go of so much from my past life. And I was so scared and I was so sad. But then there was this part of me that could see what was coming. And I had this just deep appreciation for what I had seen when I was on my trip. And I knew that I had the capability of leading myself down this new path. I didn't know the next steps. I didn't know what it was going to look like, but I just knew that it was going to be infinitely times better than where I was. So basically, when I got back, I continued drinking for about 6 months, kept putting myself in environments that were just really heavy and toxic. And I would get home at 2 a.m. and just bawl my eyes out. And I could feel my soul being like, Sophia, this is no longer meant for you. And the longer that you drag this out, the longer that you are going to feel this way. So I did it maybe for 2 months, 3 months. And then finally, there was just this feeling in me, this feeling of complete disconnection from that old life. And I thought, I can't keep doing this to myself. So I had very difficult conversations with friends at the time and just let them know this new path that I was taking. And then I ended up moving to Miami, which sounds a little bit contradictory, right? When you're going there and you're getting sober and it doesn't really make sense. But I just had this pull at the time. So I moved to Miami and I ended up going to a music festival. And this was about 6 months after ayahuasca. And I hadn't been drinking very much. I had completely stopped using substances, but that night I just felt something in me and I just drank way too much. And I started to feel angry and chaotic, and I lost my keys and just felt so disconnected and out of my body. And I'll never forget, there was a moment where I looked over at my friend and I heard this voice. Now looking back, God was definitely speaking to me. And I heard him say clear as day, why do you keep doing this to yourself? When are you going to see that you have so much potential that you will never tap into if you continue putting yourself in these environments, around these people doing the same thing over and over? And I looked over at my friend and I looked at her in the eye and I said, this is the last night I'm gonna drink. I'll be sober after this. And now, almost 3 years later, I've been sober, and it's been the most liberating, transformative period of my life. Challenging and beautiful all at the same time. But I really just started pouring into my body, my mind, and my soul. Like, I started working out, I started eating differently, I started spending time with people where I felt like I could be seen for who I truly am. I started bringing back parts of myself that I hid from the world for so long, like the too much and the goofy and the passionate, and I recognized that those are my gifts. And it was just this journey back home to myself. And so I ended up launching my podcast, Her Journey Home. And that's really what I did to rebuild myself in this process.
Wow.
Yeah, such a journey.
I'm so happy for you.
Oh, thank you. These are such good questions. Oh. Now your work is centered around helping women find their voice and share their stories. What is it like helping women through something you've had to navigate yourself? Does helping women heal feel healing to you? I love this question so much. Wow. Helping women share their voice and their stories is something that I can't even put into words. Because the first couple years of my business, I felt like so confused and disconnected and like, am I on the right path? Because I was chasing answers outside of myself. And I was completely ignoring my natural gifts. I was ignoring the journey I had truly been through. And so at first I was helping women with sobriety and other things, which all meant something very important to me, but something was missing. Like, I know that this isn't my path. I could feel it in my body. And I recognized about 6 months ago, I was living under my 93-year-old grandmother back in New York, just for a short little family time and just a regrouping, because I've lived my life very nomadically and always moving and trying to run away and escape. And when I was home, I had this major epiphany of, Sophia, your gifts and what you are meant to do, your zone of genius, has been in front of you this entire time. And you've been doing it in little ways, but you haven't fully claimed what you are meant to do here. And this has been your own transformation over the last 15 years, is really sharing your story and using your voice. And what an honor and privilege it is to now be able to help other women share their stories and be able to reach the people who might be going through a really dark season of life, or who don't fully know themselves, or who have been told they were too much. And it has felt like the greatest gift and homecoming to now be able to alchemize all of this pain that I have been through and all of the challenges that I've overcome, and be able to pour into other women that have gone through similar seasons. Because I think way too often, not only family conditioning, but societal conditioning as women. We've been told for centuries, take up less space, be polite, raise your hand in class, and that we are less than. And so I think so many women have these beautiful stories, and they have things that they may feel shame or guilt around, but they're so scared to use their voice because they've been punished. They've been reprimanded in the past, just like I was. And I think to be able to create these safe spaces where women finally feel like, oh, I can exhale for a moment. I can speak my truth. I can be seen. I can take up more space. And I can just be the woman that I have always been, who's just been locked inside of me for so many years because of all of this conditioning and these beliefs and these fears. So working with other women now has just been the greatest joy of my life. And I feel like when I get off of my client calls, my heart just wants to explode because I just have witnessed so many beautiful transformations already with women who weren't expressing themselves or who felt like they were showing up with a mask on, especially on social media. Or they are questioning if what they have to share is actually valuable or that it matters. And through my work, which is podcasting as the vehicle to them expressing themselves and sharing their stories, I also blend EFT tapping with this work as well. And so it's really still showing our bodies that it is safe to be seen in these new ways. And I believe that that tool and modality is what has helped me stay so consistent with podcasting, because so often as podcasters, we are sharing more vulnerably. We're going even deeper into our stories. We are being visible in a new way. And it's so much deeper than just a 90-second reel or a carousel. And so being able to integrate the nervous system work with the actual voice and speaking has been very profound. And I'm just really grateful. Really, really grateful. And yes, oh my gosh, helping other women heal has helped me heal on such a deep level. And even just launching my podcast helped me heal so much, which is why I'm so passionate about podcasting as the vehicle. Because I think there's something really important that happens when you give yourself the space to sit behind a microphone every single week and start to express things that you've maybe never expressed before. Or you start to hear yourself think out loud. You start to articulate yourself in a different way. And all of a sudden you recognize, wait a minute, all the answers that I've been searching for outside of myself have been within me all along. And that was really my own journey with it. There was about maybe 6 months in, something clicked. And I thought, wow, this is my way of doing things. I don't need to follow anyone else's way because this is what feels incredible. I get to make an impact, and something happens when I sit behind the microphone. Everything else kind of goes blank, and I'm just in this flow state where I get to just speak what's on my heart. And I think there's something so powerful about that. And now it's my mission to help more women launch podcasts, not just as a business strategy. I think that's how podcasting is spoken of on social media is, oh, you're going to get an ROI and sign clients. But I'm like, there's something so much deeper that happens with a podcast. And that is my mission, is to help other people really understand the beauty of expression through voice. Oh, this is so good. What's the biggest lesson having a podcast has taught you about yourself or other people? The biggest lesson that podcasting has taught me about myself is that something really beautiful happens when you finally give yourself the space to share your truth and your message and your lived experience. And it's taught me that the parts of myself that I used to hide from the world, that I was ashamed of or embarrassed of, are actually my greatest gifts and superpowers. And when you give yourself that intentional space of allowing yourself to be heard and seen in new ways, and you integrate these pieces of your story, it also helps you to liberate a lot of the shame, because shame thrives in isolation. And I think so many of us, especially women, we suffer in silence. And I think having a podcast and allowing other women to come into my world and to be able to be seen when they're in a really challenging season of their life is so much more impactful than anyone ever really speaks of. Because when one woman or person goes first, it gives other women courage to go. And if I can be that woman for other women to realize, you know what, she's been there, she's gone through this, and I may have a similar story, but because she was able to pick herself up and share about this and now help other women do this, why can't I? And it only takes one person to have the courage and the strength to say, I'm just gonna go. I don't know how it's gonna go. It's gonna be messy, it's gonna be uncomfortable, but I'm gonna go. And I think that's the biggest lesson that podcasting has taught me, and seeing my clients go through similar journeys of feeling scared to share their voice or who am I to do this, to really just stepping into their authentic light and aura and energy and connecting with their self-expression and being able to reach the people that need their message, it's just this really beautiful ripple effect that reaches so many more people than we even imagine. And I think oftentimes, if we don't share our stories, we're doing people such a disservice. I was thinking about this yesterday, but sharing your story really should be an obligation versus an option. And I think for a very long time, I looked at it as an option. And I thought, well, my story is not that important. It's not that special or unique. People are going through things that are crazier than me. And then I had to stop myself and realize, wait a minute. There is someone where I was 4 years ago who is in the middle of it, who is heartbroken and disconnected in a shell of herself. And if she listens to my podcast and gets just one message that shifts her perspective or shifts a belief or just makes her realize that there is hope, then sharing my story is no longer an option, it's an obligation. And I think that is another lesson that has come from this. And I see it not only with myself, but with my clients, of how empowering it is when they finally start sharing their truth and their message, and people are reaching out to them and they're like, thank you so much for sharing this. Like, I needed to hear this today. So yeah, it was scary, really scary.
Does it still feel scary for you sometimes, or you feel like you've gotten past that?
Not scary anymore to share my story. I feel like I've opened up about so much online. I've been so vulnerable that at this point I'm like, I don't think there's anything I really haven't shared. At least things that I know need to be shared.
Right.
But I would say for the first year, there was a lot of hesitation and a lot of second guessing and questions of, what if someone from my past listens to this? What if my father hears this? I think a lot of times even my clients are just scared of people's perception of them. And I've just gotten to realize that this is my story to share. And I'm allowed to share it in a way as long as I have good intentions and a good heart, and I'm not trying to put anyone down in the process. But I think we're all very deserving of having a space for our stories to exist.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. If your younger self was here with us right now, what would you say to her? Oof. And what is your vision for your future self? I love this question. If my younger self were here right now, I would grab her cheeks and give her a really warm hug. And I would just tell her, Sophia, you're so safe and so seen. And you are so worthy of sharing all of these parts of yourself with the world. And now the parts of yourself that you once were embarrassed of are literally the parts that people recognize you and know you for. And you have gotten through so much in your life, but look at where we've gotten. Like, look at how far we've come, and we're only just now beginning. And I would tell her that our life really only just started at 30, because that's when I got sober and I started to see the world through a completely different lens. And we have so much more to experience and accomplish together. And I would tell her that I have her hand through all of this. And if she ever feels unsafe or less than, or like she doesn't belong, that I will reassure her and sit with her through that, because I truly believe now that I belong anywhere that I decide to have the courage to step into. And if something ever feels out of alignment or not right in my body, I will make that decision for both her and I. So just really giving her a giant, giant hug and just letting her know that we have come so far and that I'm really proud of her for continuing to walk the path. What is your vision for your future self? Oof. My vision for my future self is making an impact in a much bigger way. I see myself walking on stages. I see myself sharing my story to thousands and thousands of people. And I also see myself really deeply connecting with community. I think because my whole life I felt like I didn't belong, or I felt like an outcast, having supportive, incredible humans around is the most important thing in my life right now. So really having just an incredible group of women in my life an amazing partner and husband and someone that I can also be myself with and vice versa. And continuing helping women share their stories through podcasting and continuing to be a light for those who might still be in darkness. Like, that's really my mission. And something else that has really been coming up for me a lot lately is more service. And maybe in a way of volunteering, in a way of giving back, in a way of mission trips. I don't know how it'll look yet, but that has always been something really important that I want to start really connecting with. And so I want the next 5-10 years of my life to be a lot less selfishly led and more looking at the lens of how can I really, really help more people that were where I was. That's the mission. Yeah.
I'm excited for you. I know you're gonna change your life.
Thank you. It's like the building blocks we have to go through. So it's like I'm building the foundation and I have this really major vision, and at the same time like grounding and anchoring where I am now, and like really refining my processes and doing everything that I can now, and then trusting and having a lot of faith that everything else will continue growing with it.
It's almost like you had to put your own oxygen mask on first.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
now you can help other people.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, I had to save myself before I can save anyone else. So I feel like I'm at a really good place in life now where I see very clearly the path. And at the same time, it feels scary because it's unknown. And I think oftentimes we have to be really, really comfortable with the uncertainty of it all. But just knowing that as long as I continue taking action and I keep having the courage to go first and I just step into the fear instead of trying to avoid it or go around it, I will be able to make the impact that I know I'm here to make.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm
So
excited for
good.
you.
Thank you.
Yes,
So good. What is the biggest lesson life is teaching you right now? Kind of filled you in.
it's a big one.
Oh, goodness. The biggest lesson life is teaching me right now is to have unshakable faith in myself and in the path ahead, and to really lean on God during the times of challenge and heartbreak and uncertainty. And a really big lesson I'm learning right now is that I have to continue pouring all of the love into myself that I am opening up my heart for in someone else. And trusting that what is meant for me will never, ever miss me. And I've always lived my life that way, and it's always worked out. And anything that didn't work out for me worked out for me a million times better than I ever could have imagined. I think about my deepest heartbreaks and friendship breakups and sobriety, losing identities. And at the time, I thought, oh my gosh, life is never going to get better. This is the end. I can't even imagine ever meeting someone that could be better than my ex, or I can't even imagine meeting friends where I actually feel seen and safe. But every single time, I have been led to the most incredible connections and places and opportunities. And I think it's the word right now in my life is faith. And when something doesn't work out, let it go with love and continue pouring into yourself and trusting that you are always being guided. Yeah. And what are you learning to love about yourself? I would say most recently, what's really come up for me over the last month is learning to love the way that I love. Because again, it kind of goes back to the too muchness. I always felt like in partnerships or relationships that I was too much. I would give too much. I would feel too much. I would be too much for them. And I always made that something about me. So I would be in certain partnerships and it was really amazing for the first month and then they pull away. And then I started thinking, there's something wrong with me. I have so much love to give. I have so much that I want to pour into the right person. And then I would just feel the sense of shame and guilt and maybe I did something wrong. But I am learning, especially over the last month, that what I have to give is so beautiful. My emotions are beautiful. My passion and intensity are beautiful. And the right person will embrace all of that, and they will love it, and they will be so grateful for it. And so I think now, anytime I feel as though I can't fully give that, or I can't fully be me in the way that I love and I give, that person, place, thing is not for me. So that is the biggest lesson that I'm learning, but also the part of myself that I'm learning to love. Absolutely. I'm ready. Open heart, but with, the right time, and
It will happen.
it will happen. I trust it. So, yeah. How has it felt to be seen in this way today? Wow. I'm really grateful for this space, to have been able to share my story and open up. And it felt really beautiful and also emotional at the same time, because it brought me back to places I haven't revisited in a while. And thinking about the woman I was even just 3 years ago, and the growth and the change and the strength that it took to get me from there to here. And I think so often as humans, we are in such a rush to get to the next thing. We have all these big accomplishments, and we set the bar so high for ourselves. And in the process of that, we miss the beauty in where we are right now. We miss stopping for a moment and breathing in the gratitude for how far we've come, and actually celebrating ourselves for everything we've already overcome up until this point. So I think for myself and for many others, it can be so easy to think, oh, we're not where we want to be yet. We have so much more to go. When in reality, we're living a life that we once prayed for 3 to 4 years ago. And so being seen in this way is just like, again, it's this full body, just exhale and homecoming, because me, even 3 or 4 years ago, would never sit in front of a camera, would never share my story, would have been so embarrassed and ashamed of the things that I had done in the past. But our past will never define us. And I actually believe that all of the challenges and the difficulties and the things that we have overcome and survived actually make us even more of a powerful channel to share and to be a gift to others. And so sitting here is just such a full circle moment of, wow, like the woman 3 to 4 years ago would look at this moment and be like, she did it. So thank you for holding this space and for creating such a safe space to be seen in this way. And yeah, it just feels really incredible.
Well, thank you for opening up and being here.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's incredible. Biggest takeaway from our time together. Ooh. The biggest takeaway from our time together is how important these spaces truly are. Being able to give someone else the stage or the floor to share their story. Because that's also what I desire to do for other women. And being able to open something up where someone feels deeply seen and heard and safe creates this full body feeling and transformation, because it's like this knowing of, I am worthy and enough. I have something that is within me that someone else now wants to hear or needs to hear. And I think it really just fully anchors the power of storytelling. Because I think too often, again, I said this earlier, but so many people just go about their lives thinking that what they have to share isn't valuable. And then they convince themselves that it's not as good as someone else's, or that what they've lived through isn't as bad as what someone else has lived through. Or they're just not good at sharing their story or articulating themselves. But I felt the same exact way 3 years ago. And the only reason I've gotten here is because I've had spaces like this where I've been able to open up and be vulnerable. So yeah, the biggest takeaway is we need more of these spaces. We need more women sharing their stories and their testimonies and being a safe space for other women especially. Because I think another thing that just comes to my mind is a lot of us growing up, I think, have been burned in friendships. Or we've opened up to someone and then we were backstabbed, or something happened that broke our heart and completely put up a mask and a wall. And I think being able to have womanhood where there's truly that deeper connection and that trust and that knowing that she sees me and she loves me and vice versa, it's reciprocated, is really special. So thank you for holding this space, and we need more spaces like this.
We do.
We really
I mean,
do.
we're both out here creating it.
Yes.
So I love that for us.
To so many more. Any final thoughts? Yeah, just for anyone listening or for anyone who has had a story on their heart that they know they're meant to share, but just feels that fear come up or the who am I or my story is not that valuable. Just know that you would not have gone through what you have gone through and overcome what you have overcome if you were not meant to be a lighthouse for somebody else, if you were not meant to share that story at some point. And I just think, again, the word courage continues to come to mind, and it's always what I remind myself in moments of fear or discomfort or uncertainty. Like, just have the courage to take that first step. Because if you're not willing to take the first step, the next steps will never be revealed to you. But if you have the courage to just, that one first thing that feels a little stretchy, a little scary, and you go for it. All of a sudden you're like, oh, that opened up that. Now I can go for this. And then all of a sudden, you're on this beautiful path and you look back and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm doing it. But you're never going to know a 5-year plan. You're never going to know every single perfect step. And I think as humans, we want to have so much control over every single thing that happens to us, myself included. But this whole journey has been such a beautiful reminder of why surrender is so important and so powerful. And when you can fully just lean back, continue showing up in the way that you know you need to show up, continue sharing, continue moving through the fear, the woman on the other side is that woman that has been in you since you were that free, liberated little girl. And the last thing I want to say is I think so often the healing industry talks about like, oh, becoming someone new or becoming her and doing all these things, but I don't think it's about becoming someone new. I think it's about truly remembering and reconnecting to that version of you that has been dormant in you since you were born. Because when we come into this world, we're curious, we're goofy, we're playful, we're all the things that we want to be. And then the world gets loud, and then the fear comes up, and then we're conditioned, and then we're bullied, and all these things start to happen. And little by little, and we don't even always recognize it until 15 years later, that we've become a shell of ourselves, and we've quieted our voice, and we've taken up less and less space, and we're more disconnected from our truth. And so just remember that you are reconnecting to that version of you that has always been there. We just have to get under all of the layers and learn to love and care for and tend to that version of us that's already there. And it's the most beautiful journey back home to yourself.
Thank you, Sophia.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.